Rodney Hancock, it's Andrew Kolikoff. How are you today?
I'm good, Andrew. How are you doing?
Good. So, for those that might be watching this, Rod over time has become actually a very close friend of mine. We've had the opportunity to work together on two occasions in two different companies, him as the CEO and me as a leadership development, culture development consultant. Uh, in this discussion, I want to ask two main questions. I'm sure in each of those categories of two main questions, they're going to turn into deeper questions. So let's just dive right in. The first question comes up, Rod, in a coffee that we had recently,
Mhm.
where you said something that was, I first used the word controversial, and then I later changed how I wanted to categorize it, that it was unconventional.
I think that's fair.
And so uh, Rod's so Rod's view, and I'm just going to throw this over the fence. What he had mentioned to me was if you're a business owner, and look, it varies from business to business. So we're speaking in generalities. But if you're a business owner of $100 million company or less, it's Rod's belief, which I'm going to give him every chance to explain this belief,
Yeah.
that really all you need as an owner is a CEO. Maybe it could be you as the owner or somebody you bring in, maybe a full time CFO. And then all the rest, he believes, certainly at the executive level, uh, absolutely should be fractionalized.
Mhm.
So this is, I'm going to call it unconventional. Rod, why do you believe this?
Well, first off, Andrew, thank you for asking the question, and it's good to talk to you again, as always. I believe this from over 20 years' experience of executive leadership. Myself being CEO of companies at one time, having a management company where they'd outsource fractional CEO work, whatever it might be, to run the company. So my experience over time has shown me that you don't need as many executives as what companies think. All it does is create more agendas, it creates more politics, and less execution. And why I say today I would have fractional sales executive, fractional marketing, fractional operations people is because you just need the talented people getting the work done every day. I would invest in the employees that are executing the agenda, executing the strategy, and you just need fractional people that can help set that and move that forward. You don't need to be top heavy in executive salaries. The other reason is it just reduces your payroll. It's much better to have those positions located in different areas on the P&L than paying on the payroll and the payroll taxes. So I've found over time the smaller management team I have working with fractional people is much more effective, not only in the execution, but also in the financial savings to the bottom line by not paying those salaries.
Do you mind if I ask, can you give me an example or two or why you find it to be more effective?
Sure. Well, years ago, when I first got into the manufacturing sector, I was responsible for running five different companies that basically they had no management structure at all in place. They had department leads that did everything, and we worked fabulously together. There was no politics, there was executions, there was meeting, everything was streamlined. So we had just people that were responsible for their areas at a mid to low management level. They were able to be well incentivized, make more money than they normally would, but still at a fraction to what executive management would be. And we worked together better as a team. Um, Much fewer chiefs and a lot more people
So
out
how can
executing.
you achieve now? Look, I'm just going to throw stuff over the
Sure.
fence to your side. Um, some of the true value that an executive, full-time executive in that role brings is maybe you're right. Maybe it's not as much, while it is their job to execute, you know, somebody that's involved in the strategy portion of that, let's say it's an operations, a COO. Um, a big part of their role is to get other people to do the things, to execute, but for them to come up with efficiencies and strategies that aligns with the overall company strategy. You don't find it, well, let me rephrase. The people that you're bringing in fractionally are able to do that?
Yes. Now, let me qualify something here though first.
Okay,
What I'm also saying is not straight across the board.
right.
It's just like lean manufacturing is a big thing, right? Well, practicing it might have to be adjusted by each individual company. If you just come and broad brush it, you're not meeting the needs or what is happening there at the time. So it's not always the right case. If you have the right team already together, then that's fantastic. But what I found over 20 years is more politics is at the executive level than anywhere else. Less execution happens at the executive level. It happens down, if you will, at the street level of things. And bringing in fractional people in those positions, they come up from an unbiased, no agenda plan, just speaking facts, speaking truth in what they see, and being very candid and working together. And you know, Andrew, as we've worked together, and I've charged you in certain areas, and you're there as a fractional coach or whatever it might be, working in sales, that sort of thing. You take the initiative that either came from me as the CEO or came from me and the owner to take that directive, and then you go out and execute, and you build a completely different relationship with the employees in the company than if you were boss, so to speak. So they relate to you better. They want to execute more because they know you're there to help them. Period.
I can speak intimately about that. I think when you first come in as a consultant, the people that you work with are initially, they feel threatened.
Yes.
You know, who is this guy? If he's not a full timer, is he here to check on me? You know, what are they? Is my are my days numbered? And then if that consultant is very good at letting them know, which is what I do, is like, look, I'm here actually to be your voice now.
Yeah.
That whatever you have not been heard, or whatever people aren't listening to what you know now,
Yeah.
you give it to me
Yes.
because I'm going to be able to work with you and the team to figure out if, you know what, maybe you're right. Maybe we do need to take this up to the top.
Yeah.
And I can then be your voice. And then once you establish that relationship and you build that trust, you're right. It is a different relationship. They feel, look, the best cultures of all create a safe environment for people to communicate what's hard to communicate, the difficult, uncomfortable things,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
Those are the best cultures where they feel safe to do that.
Yes. Uh,
And
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I agree 100%. 100% with you. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
Culture
So
is critical.
I think this idea of agendas, you know, people in full-time roles, they become very set in their ways. Um, they're, you know, it is different, but it is a nuanced difference when you bring in a fractional executive. Look, you have been a fractional CEO,
Yes.
so, and you have worked with the owners directly in that capacity. So I just find it very, very interesting because I've walked into so many companies that either have that whole executive team or don't and think they need to fill those roles.
Right. Yes.
And and they think they can't afford it. You know, I can't afford to pay a COO, a CMO, a CRO all what they deserve.
Right.
And you're here to tell them that you actually can part-time. So one of the things, the pushback that I get from owners is, yeah, Andrew, I hear that. But if you're not around all the time and I just need one neck to choke and you're not here and you're not seeing what's going on day to day,
Yeah.
how do I know that I can trust not you, but the accuracy of what you're seeing?
Sure. So that's a really good question, and let me answer that in a couple different ways. First off, practically by experience, Andrew, I have done what I'm saying. One company that I became the CEO of was in serious trouble, and basically I had to get about $2 million worth of payroll off the books as quickly as possible, and so I fired the entire executive team from operations, sales, marketing, customer service, all of them, head of R&D, all of them went. And I was able to do that because I already saw there are people in each area of the company, dedicated employees, who are executing the initiative that was needed. All I needed to do was bring in people to coach them and help them how to run their departments and run them more effectively. And then that team I used to set the agenda, the strategy together, but they always had outside eyes looking in while also they were in looking out. And so I got more sound, candid advice by employee to employee, whether this one is a leader, that one's not a leader. This one is doing a good job, or maybe it's looked as not. This person over here, the janitor, actually has some pretty damn good ideas. Why don't we listen to them? Those things stop in a company where you have too many executives because they squash voices that they don't necessarily want to be heard because it doesn't fit the agenda. And that creates a problem in the culture. So if your culture is important, your people are important, and you have good people, you don't need a full executive team to get the job done. So I've done this a number of times and streamlined it to get a company more profitable and running more efficiently. The other part, and it's a good question that an owner might have, well, if someone's not there, how do they see? Well, COVID and the pandemic changed my view on a lot of things in running a business. So when COVID happened, I'm running a huge international manufacturing company. Overnight, I had to send 60 employees to start working remote from home because of where the company was located, the way they were handling COVID. It was get it done or get fined. Had to restructure the factory. That's a different part. But my point is, I was no longer seeing what my employees were doing day in and day out. Okay. Where before I'd be sitting in my office, I could see the parking lot, I could see everywhere, and oh, why is someone going out to their car? Why are they doing that? And I'd start focusing on what they're not doing instead of what they're doing. When everybody went home and I was no longer seeing physically what they were doing every day, all I was seeing was the results. I found out 90% of my employees cared about what they were doing, and did a better job and did better work when it wasn't actually in front of me. Now, I would say to that owner, well, what if you don't see this and they're taking advantage of that? Well, that's a different problem and it's an employee problem. Then you don't have the right employees out there working. Because if you created a culture and you created a culture of accountability and people care about what they're doing and they care about the company, they are naturally going to do a good job. I think that is basically in most people, even the Gen Zers, the new ones that are out hitting the mark. Most people want to do a good job. They want to be recognized for the job that they've done, and they want to be given clear direction and then get out of the way and let them execute it. And lots of times, executive managers get in the way of even their own team executing to success. And that's part of the
So
problem.
one of the things that you will do if you have an opportunity, somebody calls you up tomorrow and says, hey, Rod, I have a client I want you to meet, and you go meet that client. Because you have this experience, you would not hesitate, if it warranted it,
Right.
to make them operate with less, not more, at the
Correct.
executive level.
Correct.
So you mentioned something else, and here's my second major question to you. You talked about investing in your people, in leadership.
Yes.
Why do you find that to be important today?
Well, first
And
off,
what do you mean by that?
yeah, well, first off, someone has to do that. So is it my job as a CEO to continue to invest even in my executive team, me personally, and working to help develop them or even mid-management, that sort of thing. If I'm doing that as a CEO, which I do love to do, I do love to help people and coach people along. That's in my DNA. It's a servant heart, servant attitude. but then something else is going to give in the company. So you need outside coaching because it's an outside perspective. Okay. Um, when you're inside and you're trying to coach, you start getting narrower and narrow vision, and you start formulating opinions about your people that could be right or could not be. And you stop maybe seeing the potential always because you're down in the weeds and you don't get to see. So when you bring someone in the outside, let's use an example. You and I worked together. There was one individual that I thought probably needed to go, a mid manager running a department. You know who I'm talking about. Um, and you started working with this individual, and all of a sudden, I got a rock star in my hands. Not an executive, a mid manager right in the department that cares. And I watched my customer experience go up and our sales in that department go up because that person was invested in by a work from outside. You came with no bias, no opinion. You just knew you either needed to get him on one side of the line for me or the other. Either, yeah, he really's got to go, or I was wrong and you saw something that I didn't see and you developed it and he turned out to be a great employee, right? I mean, again, so that's why outside people coming in and helping you run your company as a CEO or run your company as an owner is so critically important. Like if I could roll back and talk to my younger self and I'm getting ready to launch a business, I would go find a good fractional CFO to help me because I won't. I don't need an accountant. I don't need a bookkeeper. I need a CFO. I need someone that can create from the start P&Ls for me, that can give me good advice. I don't need them full time. There are great people out there that are awesome CFOs that are at that side of their career. They just want to do fractional work. Freedom and movement is what they want. I wouldn't need a full-time sales executive, but I would need someone that could teach my team how to sell whatever the products are. Same with marketing. I'd outsource the marketing to a marketing firm or a marketing individual. Operations would pretty much be the same way. If you got people that can run production, they can do that at mid-level, you don't need an executive. You just need
So
someone that can come in and coach them.
you said something to me once, going back to this leadership development thing, that I'll never forget. You once said to me, and I'm paraphrasing,
Sure.
Andrew, I don't think I ever want to do this again without someone like you to be in the trenches working with these people to coach them up to their potentials. And you gave me a reason why, because you said that young people today are different.
Yes.
Um, do you want to elaborate on that a little bit?
Sure. I think what are we on now? Gen Z is
Yeah.
the young ones and your Gen X and those. If you take everybody basically 40 years and below, and maybe I'm being a little generous going to 40, but below, they're looking for a family. They're looking for a workplace that's like a family that they belong to. They get a lot of their identity from there. And look, let's face it, we spend more time at work than anything else, basically in our lives on a day-to-day basis. So they want a place that belongs and they want a place that values them. That it's not just I've got a dollar, on me that says I need to produce this much for the company. I mean, that's true. It's a business. You got to make money. You got to make profits. There's nothing wrong with that. But the younger generation wants a place to belong. The younger generation also, I believe, wants to find the place to belong and stay if they're well taken care of. I think we're going to see a trend moving back to where this younger generation will work at some place all their life and that's it. You remember like our parents, our grandparents would work 35, 40 years at one place. My dad was an executive at Coca-Cola. That's the only job I ever knew him to have is he worked for Coca-Cola all those years. Well, that doesn't happen anymore. We move around, right? In my lifetime, I've probably worked at, 20 or more places. In my management company, I have 30 or more clients. I mean, so it's a different mindset.
So do you think they're bouncing around because they don't feel like, and my spin on it would be that, when I was a kid and you were a kid, we looked for a good job with good pay. That
Yes.
was it.
Yes.
Today, like my son, who's 26, he wants something that fits his lifestyle. He
Yes.
wants something that fits what he believes. And he happens to be less money motivated and more lifestyle motivated. And you're saying, even though I think today they're bouncing around more than ever before, you're saying the opposite could happen if you just simply invest in them. But
Correct.
isn't that investment a cost of doing business? Or have you found, it's kind of a loaded question because it's what I do. Have you found that that investment pays for itself many times over?
The investment pays for itself many times over because one, if I have happy, better working employees, I need fewer employees. Okay. So right now everybody's in a race of, well, maybe robotics and automation and AI, and those all are either good or bad. It depends on what you want to do with them, right? That's all neutral. It's in the hands of the holder of what you do with that makes it good or makes it bad. Okay. So that, but when you have better trained employees that care about where they are, I don't need as many. And I can
More
pay more.
productive employees is what engaged, productive employees is what everybody wants.
Correct.
And
Like
you're
you'll
saying
understand.
that investment in
Yes.
them, coaching them, giving them the leadership development tools, the life development tools you have seen with the right people you bring in actually creates that sense of productivity
Correct.
and belonging for them.
Correct. Like my children. So I have three children. They're all now in their 30s. They want to work hard. They want to make good money, but their life is more important than their job. And so all of them have side things that they're doing that they make things. One makes knives, one makes does floral and different things like that. So they're making money on the side to create a lifestyle that if the job they just start demanding more, it's not conducive to their overall health and well-being, they can walk away because they already have a lifestyle that's set up with what they're doing and making money in those ways as well. So I
So
don't
I,
think, again, I think we misunderstand. Sorry, let me finish this. I think
yeah,
we misunderstand and we say it's not a good work ethic. I think it's a different work ethic. And you know what? I'm starting to think it might be a better work ethic. Okay. You and I were brought up, go out, bust our ass, work hard. Well, then you're exhausted and you don't even really have time to go enjoy whatever it is you want to do for your life, right? So, is that better than, hey, I want to work smarter? I want to have a quality of life overall and integrate that. And okay, maybe I don't need the big houses and the fancy cars. I just need to be comfortable. That's all I want. And I want to live my life. I think that generation has the potential to be happier, healthier, probably better human relations than a lot of us because we just have been working our asses off.
I agree. And look, I mean, uh, the companies with the best cultures on the planet have, I mean, you could look it up statistically, have the most engaged, most productive employees on the planet.
Yeah.
And those companies are usually led by a servant leader. Um, I find that there's a hesitancy to make that decision, being a consultant in this space,
Sure.
for people like yourself who are leaders to actually pull the trigger on it.
Uh-huh.
You know, it's almost something that they have to see with their own eyes first before, because they view it as an expense, not an investment.
Correct.
And you, the way you're describing it to me, you view it as an investment, not an expense.
No, correct. It's an investment, but the expense is one falls in a different category of taxes, different way of running businesses than it does over on payroll. So actually, at the end, it's savings. Like back when the financial crisis hit 2007, 9, that era. That's when I launched a management company because I realized I knew a certain segment in manufacturing that was not going to be able to stay in business if they kept paying the executive salaries. So why don't I go in and provide those services at a fraction of what it would cost for them to hire someone in, and yet I still would make good money by having multiple clients providing for them, and I save them a fraction of the business. So an example, I might be $80,000 a year if they needed help in their sales. or to have a sales executive could be anywhere from 180,000 to 200 some thousand dollars a year, right? And I would still get them the same results or better by working with their team. I'm just using sales as that example. Um, a privately owned company where the owner doesn't want to run the business anymore. If he hired in a full-time CEO, depending on the business, again, is going to be upwards of 200, 300, 400,000 salary and bonuses and all kinds of other things. As a fractional CEO, you can come in much lower than that because you might be running 2 or 3 different companies at the same time. And so it's a win for me individually, and it's a win for my clients because they're saving money by getting and also getting the results and growth that they need. So it's a different if it's a different phenomenon or a different time, whatever the right word you want to put on it. But listen, you got to think differently today. You have to be open to new opportunities and new ways of thinking and new ways of thinking and new ways of doing things. Or before you know it, you're going to wake up one morning and your business is in serious trouble and you don't know why.
So how would, what if somebody listens to this broadcast, um, how would they get in contact with
That's a good question. Right now, you can go to a website that just has a phone number on it.
you?
I'm in the process of setting up a new business, a new management company called Intuitive Management Partners, and I did it and named it that intentionally because, as you know, you and I share in common servant leadership. That's in my core value of who I am. It's always been there, and I've paid a lot of bad prices for being a servant leader over my career. Um, Not physically, but had the crap beat out of me by people and the companies that didn't like that. It's disrupted the whole structure of management. But I showed that you can make a lot of money and you can take good care of your people by serving them. Well, the other thing is intuition. You have it, I have it, everybody has it, right? But we don't know how to listen to it. And quite frankly, not to get weird on you or anybody that's listening to this, but you've challenged me. They either get you right and you're the right person to work with, or they don't. So draw a line, kind of on the ground. I want to teach people how to learn to use and listen to their intuition because what's inside of us will always guide us right. But we've had so much noise happening in our minds and so much noise out there that we don't hear it clearly or we don't trust it.
How I phrase that is, everything out here outside of our bodies, that which we're looking to create, develop, manifest, really all first starts inside.
Yes.
And we have less of a tendency to do the work inside
Mhm.
than the work outside.
Correct.
And both require work. So I think, I mean, I love the name. So, but for now, how would they get in contact with you? What's your email address?
Address right now is Rod or R Hancock, Hancock, at Whitmore Group, WHITTEMOREGROUP.com. Or my
Okay. And on
cell
LinkedIn, they
number,
could find you in
yeah,
LinkedIn as well.
LinkedIn, and cell number is 480-320-9604.
Well, I wasn't going to ask you for
I know.
that, but you
That's
gave it
okay.
to me.
I gave it to you because you know what? I want to be available. Yes. Do I charge? Do I make money for what I do? Yes, I do. But I'm about helping people. I mean, you're about helping people. Your secret sauce is about bringing people together, helping people.
Yeah.
Um, and listen, our world is not going to change by our politicians. It's not going to change by the people in pulpits and synagogues and temples and whatever all around the world. It's going to change by people like you and me just living our lives day to day, helping each other. And it's going to change more through the business community adopting that and saying, yes, profits are still extremely important. I get that. And I would never tell anybody how much money they can make or what's enough for that. I can't answer that for anybody. But I do know that if we run business the right way, where we stop worrying about competing with each other, we stop worrying about the dollar coming in, and we start focusing on each other and helping each other, everything else will just come. The money will come, the business will come. Everything will happen in that regard if we're putting each other in as important beings to each other.
I look,
And we
you,
have
you,
lost
you, you you took the words right out of my mouth. Like Meatloaf said in
that.
1970, what
Yeah.
was it, at seven?
Yeah, and we've lost that, Andrew. Everything's about profit, 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 dollars, 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 advancement, recognition. Why do we go out and buy expensive cars? Because we want people to think we're successful. And so, oh, they must know what they're doing because they drive that fancy car or they live in the big house. Now, listen, I love nice things. I love nice cars. I love nice houses. I love to travel very nicely. I love making a lot of money, but none of that makes me happy. It's
And
nice.
even when you get it, you want more.
Exactly. Like I, I,
It-
I I drive a great car right now. Okay. I'm tired of it already.
right.
And it's a
So
nice vehicle.
it's so true. I mean, at the end of the day, we want to have lived a good life with people that have mattered most in our lives.
Yep.
And and I think some of us, work becomes their life, and that is their joy and frustration and sorrow and all of it. And it's not a knock on them. That's the choice they make. But I think, you know, I would imagine most of them would look back on their lives and want greater depth to their life than just that. And you're here to tell everyone, which I love, is that you can have your cake and eat it too. You can be very profitable and do things the right way. Rod Hancock, I really appreciate you making time to talk to me. These are two really important subjects or questions that I asked you that I wanted clarity on.
Yep.
And the people know how to get in touch with you. If you is there a certain kind of a company or industry, or who's your perfect fit, or do you feel you have one?
No, honestly, I don't. I've worked in all kinds of industries. I love manufacturing because I love creating things. I think that's fun to see. And I wish I was a guy that was an inventor, but I'm not. I wish I was an original idea guy. I'm not. I help make things better. That's what I do. I build on someone else's work or idea. So there's not one in particular as far as type of company or industry. It's more someone that knows they need or want help. That's the perfect partner for me because I'm here to help. So, like, even some business owners, they start thinking, I'm ready to sell my company. Well, they're just burnt out. And so then they regret selling their business or they don't like how it went. Where what if you could say to someone like you or me, hey, could you come in and run my company for a while? And by the way, I might want it back. I mean, they still keep ownership. Make sure that's very clear. They keep ownership, but hey, would you run it? Because I'm just tired of it. I just want the money, but I'm not ready to sell yet. And 2 years later, they might come back and say, hey, thank you. I want to come back and run my business. Fantastic. That's that to me is so rewarding because I helped someone hold on to something that was very valuable to them that they were ready to let go.
So Rod, thank you. I'm going to end on this note, and it was something that we had discussed in a coffee. So if you're one of those people that is an owner, and you're either tired, burnt out, frustrated, want to take a couple years off, need somebody to run it, and you put it out there that you're looking for somebody, and let's pretend you get 100 recommendations, and then you narrow it down to 5. For those that are listening, I pretty much guarantee you all 5 of you can get it to all 5 of those people can get your business to a better place. What you need to be asking yourselves is this: how are they going to get you there? And is it going to jive with how you want that journey to look and feel like? Is it going to match your values?
Correct.
So when you do choose somebody like a Rod, make the decision not just on their ability to get you to a better place, because let's be real, most of them already have the experience to do so. What you really need to be asking them questions about is, what is that going to feel like? What is that going to look like?
Yeah.
How is it, how are you going to get me there that's different than maybe somebody else will get me there? And that's what I love about you, Rod, is that That's actually a big differentiator for you, is that you want to make that journey beautiful, not just make it all about the destination. And
Fantastic.
isn't that like life? They always say in life, oh my God, it's the journey, man. It's not the destination. Well, then why don't we apply that to our businesses? It's all about the destination and not the journey in business when it actually really is.
Yep.
So thank you for making time.
You bet.
And please, anybody that has any questions, you can reach out to me, Andrew Kolikoff, Kolikoff. You can find me on LinkedIn. And my email is andrew@kolikoff.com. Thank you very much.
You bet. Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate you.